Hey everybody, it's JJ and we're back again for another ASUS PCDIY hardware stream, and this time we're going to be talking about actually gaming keyboards. So if you guys are of course noticing, we're getting towards the end of the year. We've got a lot of different things going on in terms of different kinds of promotions, and we've actually got a lot of different promotions regarding our actual gaming keyboards, both wired and wireless. So we thought let's go ahead and take the time to go ahead and actually highlight pretty much the entire product stack. So we've got a really cool product stack in terms of both wired and wireless keyboards, 65% to TKL to full-size keyboards, of course standard types of switches to of course our optical RX based switches, and a lot of really kind of cool features and functions kind of weaved all together in that throughout our different kind of gaming product lines. So we're going to go ahead and dive into that, give you guys of course essentially the links if you're interested in checking out of course any one of the keyboards that we're talking about here in the stream. There's some really great promotions like I said that are going on with some models, like even including here one of my favorites, the Falchion NX, for $50 off right now. So normally $150 and you can get it for $100. So that's just one of the really cool kind of promos that we're going to be talking about. But again, everything that we're going to be talking about for the most part I think is going to be on sale, so quite a bit of promotions going on. So that's who we have joining us here on the stream. We've got Suman joining us. Hey, fantastic. Thanks so much. We've got Miguel joining us as well. Fantastic to have you here. Looks like we've got Michelle joining us as well. Heecham joining us as well. We've got Dead BC 77. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us as well. So let's get ready to go ahead and jump straight into it. We're just going to go ahead and do a little bit of kind of a general recap in terms of kind of just giving you a little bit of lay of the land before we get, I guess, essentially into all the models. Kind of quickly talking a little bit about kind of form factor and size. So when we talk about kind of keyboards as they are right now, you really kind of have three different sizes that generally people are kind of evaluating or kind of considering. And so when we talk about these, the first one is going to be something that's going to be super compact, which would be something like this guy right here. This would be a 65% based keyboard. So this is pretty much going to still have all your standard keys on there. 65% will generally mean that it also has the arrow keys. I'm a big fan of having still the arrow keys on the keyboard so that you still have actually like a true kind of gaming keyboard, because you can utilize those arrow keys. So that's going to be 65%. The next step up in terms of the overall size is going to be your TKL based keyboard. So let me go ahead and grab a TKL based model. So with a TKL based keyboard, we're going to have a little bit of an increase in terms of the size. This is the Moonlight White edition, and we're going to be talking about this one also. This is going to be a little bit larger, but of course, compared to a traditional keyboard, there's no numpad, right? There's no 10 key. And really kind of one of the big benefits that sometimes people don't realize when you have essentially a 65% or a 10 key, and there you can kind of just see how the 65% is quite a bit smaller than the the TKL based model, is that this part right here in terms of your arm, kind of your shoulder, you have something called the labrum, and when you kind of extend your arm out right here, and if you have a 10 key, as well as depending on your mouse, the more distance you're putting on this area, you can actually put a little bit of unneeded strain on here, and so you can actually get kind of like pain or sustained injury over time. And so going with a little bit of a more compact keyboard will allow you to reduce this, keep this actually a little bit more less stressed, so less in what's called a prone position, and you'll be able to go ahead and type a little bit more comfortably. And then also sometimes people will want to be able to go ahead and adjust the keyboard. So going with just a smaller keyboard especially will allow you to go ahead and do that. So take for instance, let's say if I was maybe making a quick adjustment to my game, I want to go ahead and have it maybe tilted like this and do something like this, I could do that. So that's kind of one of the benefits that you have when you go with either, let's say, 65% or you go with a TKL. So let's do a quick just kind of up and down sizing. So I'm going to go ahead and just put these a little bit side by side. We'll put the Moonlight White here on the bottom. This one has slightly different keycaps, so those keycaps are going to look a little bit different because I was just customizing this a little bit. So just keep in mind the keycaps aren't the standard on this model. They're a little bit different than the standard. These are actually ceramic keycaps. Okay, so there you go. So that is going to be 65% at the top, and then TKL is going to be on the bottom. Okay, and we will actually be having, it's not on sale right now, but next month we will have a new version of this 65% in white, which will be the Falchion Ace, although that model will be only a wired only. But we're going to be talking about all the different versions of the Falchion, because right now we have two different versions. We have the Falchion NX, and then we have the Falchion Standard, which is going to be using Cherry MX. So that again is going to be kind of our comparison difference. Now the last one that we want to go ahead and look at is, let's evaluate the full size, which probably most of you are pretty familiar with. So let me go ahead and get a full size keyboard out, and not like I don't have enough cables here and enough RGB, but let's go ahead and plug this one in. right? So I'm just going to plug it in here. All right, and this would be a full size, right? So this is the ROG Strix Scope RX, and you'll definitely see, of course, it's not that much larger, but it's definitely going to be larger. So this is going to be a full size, and the main difference, of course, here is going to be that you have the integrated numpad, right? So you've got your numpad right there, 10 keyless, which doesn't have the numpad. And then if we go for the last one right here, and let me see if I can get them all on there, that's going to go ahead and be the 65%. So there you go. So comparing your 65%, your full size, and then your 10 keyless. So we have all three of these models, and we're going to be talking about them. But overall, these are going to be your choices, and this is probably the most important thing that you want to evaluate, right? I would say the second most important aspect that you would want to evaluate is going to be whether or not you want to go with a wired or wireless based keyboard. Many of our models that we're going to be talking about are going to be both wired and wireless, so you don't have to compromise. You can actually go with both, and we even have new models that actually are what are called tri-mode, which means that you can go between Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz, and wired USB-C. So the choice is kind of really up to you. When you do talk about generally gaming, though, gaming, it is generally going to be preferred to use either USB-C or essentially your standard wired connection, or we're going to go with 2.4 gigahertz for connectivity. Bluetooth, it will introduce additional latency, but it's good if maybe you want to sync up your keyboard maybe with like a phone or a tablet or even a laptop. So maybe you're just typing, you're just using it maybe on your laptop or even on your desktop, but you're not necessarily gaming and you maybe want to extend battery life. Bluetooth will give you much longer battery life than you would have generally for utilizing the 2.4 gigahertz wireless connection. Okay. So that I think covers the main parts that I wanted to go into. So now we're going to get ready to start actually talking about specific models. Let me quickly just see if we have any quick questions. Hey Brian, thanks so much. Happy to join us on the stream, and hope you have a really good day too as well. As Jeep saying is that he likes the Moon. The Moon, I'm assuming you mean the Moonlight White edition. Yeah, I think it's a pretty nice keyboard right there. So looks like we've got one question right here. Is keyboard pro art? We actually are expanding some of our pro art based accessories, and we will have some additional options for our pro art lineup, but as of right now there is no pro art keyboard. So right now these are essentially all of our gaming kind of centric keyboards. For like a general user or kind of productivity centric keyboard or peripheral, the requirements and the designs are generally going to be quite a bit different. You know, maybe you want something that's going to be really quiet. You probably would prioritize even more maybe ergonomics that are going to be there, and maybe even some of the design cues might be a little bit more subtle, right? So there's going to be some differences in that regard. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our first model right here. So let me go ahead and bring this up here, and we're going to go now that, again, we've kind of recapped keyboard size, 65% TKL and full size, we're going to go and we're going to start off with the wired keyboards. And essentially when we talk about our wired keyboard options, we have two different versions in terms of the keyboards that we'll offer. We'll either have a Cherry MX version or we'll have an ROG NX based version. And so what does that fundamentally mean? Well, when we take a look again at a keyboard, if I go ahead and grab my Moonlight White keyboard right here, and let me grab my stand here one more time. With pretty much all of your keyboards, you're going to have either a Cherry MX, or you're going to have an ROG NX, or if we step up to our ROG RX, you're going to have some type of switch. And the switch, of course, is what you're physically pressing when you press the keys on the keyboard. And so if I go ahead and remove this keycap right here, it's going to take a little bit of effort because this is a little bit of a different keycap. This is a ceramic keycap. Let me see if I can get it off right there. There we go. That right there is going to be your switch, right? So I can go ahead and maybe get this under the secondary camera, but your switch, the difference is essentially with your standard Cherry MX switches, they are very much the industry standard. They've been around for a really long time, for decades, and people are very, very kind of familiar with their overall kind of feel. And you have classic, generally three different types of switch options. You have your what's called linear, which means that there's no bump when you press it. It's just a smooth, kind of consistent actuation. The smoothest can vary though, depending actually on a couple of factors, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Then you have what's referred to as a tactile type switch, which would generally be your browns. That means that there's going to be a bump. So you'll actually feel when you press the switch. Some touch typists sometimes prefer a tactile bump. I personally, I don't I don't mind a tactile bump, but I prefer linears. I like actually a switch that can be kind of as smooth and as quiet as possible, although I don't want it to be too light. And then lastly, you have your clicky switch. And so your clicky switch would be the blue switches. Those are the sometimes ones that are kind of the most notorious, where they're very loud, they're very audible. Some people absolutely love them. It's really a preference. And we do offer a lot of these keyboards essentially in multiple switch types. So again, you're going to have your choice of either picking your linears, your tactiles, or your clicky switches. And then between the ROG NX switch and the Cherry MX switch, we will still maintain that same type of focus where you're going to have your linears, your tactiles, or your clickies. But the ROG NX switches specifically do have some differences in their design, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit once we actually get into those specific keyboards that do feature that. But let me go ahead and just quickly show you a little bit more kind of close up here. The switch, I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with this, but just so we can go ahead and just show them a little bit for reference. Let me go ahead and just get that lined up right there. And I guess I'll throw a little bit of RGB on there, right? This is actually going to be one of the wired models, so that's also another cool thing that we'll be talking about. Many of our keyboards also have detachable cable designs, so that means that if you want to go ahead and customize your cable, you can go ahead and do that. You've got a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can go about kind of setting up the look and feel for your system, right? All right, so there we got our cable. We've got it all nicely lit up there, and let's go ahead and take a look here. Ooh, that is bright. We've got a pretty bright keyboard right there. So just what I'm showing right there is, of course, that's what I'm referred to as the switch. So as we noted right here, this is a red switch, right? And like I said, if it was a brown switch, it would generally be brown. And if it was blue, it would generally be blue. So that is going to be what I'm referring to as the actual switches. Okay, so that's the main thing I want to go ahead and touch on there. So now we're actually going to jump into some of these keyboards, and I will be making the preference when I talk about each model on which type of switches it comes with, whether it comes with Cherry MX switches or whether it comes with our ROG NX switches. And when I get to the ROG NX switches, I'll talk about actually how those differ, because they do differ from your traditional Cherry MX switches in a number of ways. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and put that back on there. And let me just quickly see if we got any quick questions right there. Rayus is saying, is which keyboard switch is your personal favorite? You know, that's really complicated. There are literally, at this point, I mean, there's hundreds, there's probably thousands of different types of switches. I actually like quite a number of different switches, and on our Flare 2 Animate, which is a motherboard, excuse me, a keyboard that you can actually change the switches out, I've gone ahead and tried a lot of different types of switches as well out, and I have actually different types of custom keyboards, and I've got an actually next generation concept model that I've actually gone ahead and tried out as well, and doing some kind of customization there. Personally, for me, I really like linears because I just like it to be really smooth and really quiet. I'm working a lot, and even when I'm gaming, or even when I'm kind of typing late at night or just early in the day, I don't want a large amount of noise coming from my keyboard. So generally the smoother and the quieter the switch, that is my preference. But I know a lot of people really like tactiles, so brown switches. But overall, if we talk about the majority of the market, the largest selling and most consistent selling type of switch on the market is going to be reds. So linear switches tend to be the most popular. So if you're not sure which switch you might want to go with, red would be my kind of initial recommendation, just because it is a significantly larger share of the market with people that go with linears. Then a smaller percentage go with tactiles, and then the least popular switches, even though they're kind of maybe the most recognizable, are the clicky switches, and that's just because I think a lot of people get a little bit you know, wear down by maybe the consistent kind of large clicking sound. There are clicky switches that do get a little bit quieter over time, but that's generally going to be kind of the range that it comes to. Okay. Are they all backlit? Yeah, everything that we're going to show, everything has RGB lighting. So there isn't going to be one model that we're going to show or talk about that doesn't have RGB lighting. Okay. Hey Hichem, we're not talking about monitors, so if you actually have questions about that, you can ask in the PCDIY group. I've already talked about that monitor quite a bit already in terms of the availability, so check out the group or check out one of the prior streams where we've talked about the PG32QXE. All right, let's go ahead and keep moving this along. So first model up that we're going to go ahead and touch on here is, let's go with actually an older model. This model we've actually had for quite some time. This is the ROG Strix Flare. I don't have this one on hand, so I'm just going to show you the images for it, and I will bring up the pricing for it and kind of show it off right there. So give me 1 second here. And this one I'm just going to show you very quickly in terms of this model, because give me 1 second here. All right. And this one's going to have a small price reduction, not going to be as large as some of our other models, so just kind of keep that in mind there. So right now the price on the ROG Strix Flare is going to be $119 versus $130, so that's a 9% pricing reduction right there. I'm going to go ahead and drop that one in the chat. Oh, wrong keyboard. You got to use the right keyboard. All right, there you guys go. And this one, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'll just quickly kind of show this one to you guys so you guys can check it out right here. We're going to spend some time on some of the other ones that we have bigger promotions on right now, but this is going to be a full size. This will come with the Cherry MX based switches, right? So you'll see full size. You do actually have a wrist rest that comes included with this one. You have the numpad that's going to be on here. You do have the ability to have hardware level lighting control that's offered on this model, and that's going to be pretty much true for most of our models. That means if you hold down the function key and then you press the arrow keys, you can adjust the lighting pattern and you can adjust the brightness. So everything that we're going to talk about uses our Armoury Crate software so that you can go ahead and kind of customize the overall RGB lighting experience. But if you don't want to use the software, you can do it directly via hardware. This does also have multiple profiles on board, so you can store multiple profiles for different applications or different games. You have a dedicated volume knob that's going to be present on here, and then media keys that are also going to be on here. Another nice thing about the Flare is that it has a USB pass-through design. So if you're not familiar with the USB pass-through design, that essentially just means right up here, you have the ability to go ahead and connect something like a mouse, maybe a headset, a different type of accessory, so that you don't have to necessarily reach back over to your system and plug something back into your USB port. It also has this nice kind of like sidebar lighting that's on there for a little bit more kind of desk illumination. So you can get this one and multiple switches, but I think the one that we actively have right now on sale and in stock is going to be the red switches. So if you're interested in that, then this is going to be a nice option if you want to get a go with the full size. We do have a newer model that we're going to be talking about than the ROG Strix Flare, which will be the Flare 2, and that one we'll note on a little bit later, okay? And then again, as I noted, right, it has that detachable wrist rest. And then right here, these little inserts are inserts that have a little bit of illuminated pattern. So the default is the ROG I, but it does come with a secondary one that if you want to customize it, you can go ahead and customize it and change it up. Now this one is going to be a fixed cable design, which means this cable would not be removable. So this is going to be just a thick braided cable that comes included with that model, okay? And I've gone ahead and dropped that one, a link in the chat for you there in terms of the ROG Strix Flare. And let me go ahead and just double check again what the price was on that one. Price on that one is normally $130, and right now it's $119, and that is going to be for the red switches. Okay, so pretty straightforward. That is going to be the ROG Strix Flare. Let me go ahead and just show you a couple of quick shots right here of just kind of what it looks like in like a little bit of a desk setup. So in case you're wondering about that, there you can see right next to the Gladius, next to our headphones, right? And then this is also, I think, on our scabbard. So this is our larger kind of desk mat. And there's where I was talking about. You have that nice little kind of side profile lighting that's on the Flare. Okay, so nice option, full size, but again, we do have a newer version of that one that is now available with the ROG Strix Flare 2. Okay, all right, so now actually let's move over to that. So we're going to quickly touch on the ROG Strix Flare 2, and here we actually have two versions. We're going to have one that's called the Animate and one that is called the non-animate, and this is where things definitely get a little bit more interesting with these two models. So let's go ahead and first give you guys a little bit of a preview on some of the cool things that we're doing here with the Flare 2. So give me 1 second here to get it into our videos. All right, there we go. So here you're going to guys see, this is going to be just a little bit introduction here to the ROG Strix Flare 2 Animate. And so this is going to be similar to the Flare that we just talked about. Still a full-size keyboard, but you can see right there we've gone ahead and expanded the actual diffusion lighting, where it's not actually just on the side, but it's actually on the front of the keyboard. It also has a wrist rest that also has the actual diffusion. It has sound dampening foam, which will help to actually reduce pinging inside the body. It'll make for a quieter typing experience. It has improved stabilizers, which is something that somebody that uses the space bar and kind of certain stabs on their actual keyboard a lot will notice in terms of just being smoother. You can customize the switches on here, so you can actually replace the switches. And it has an 8,000 hertz polling rate, which is going to be significantly faster than the norm in terms of the overall speed. So if you're talking about the quickest input, then that is going to be something that is going to be present there on the ROG Strix Flare 2 Animate. So quite a number of actually upgrades that are going to be on this model. We're going to go ahead and keep taking a closer look here at this one. So let me go ahead and bring this up here. All right, so here we can see it with the actual lighting turned off. This is still going to be a full-size keyboard. Design is going to be somewhat similar to what we saw with the very original Flare, right? But you're going to see in this section, this is going to be different. This is the Animate section, where essentially it has the Armoury Matrix. So this is a customizable set of LEDs that are going to be on here that you can go ahead and put different types of information into. You have your volume knob in there, but it's gone ahead and been shrunk down a little bit. Still really nice, but then you have now expanded kind of media keys. So you have actually a play button that's on the side. You have skip and previous track functionality. You have some lightness buttons right there. You have dedicated function keys that are also serve for actually additional options in terms of customization. Still have the function key, which offers the hardware level lighting control, onboard memory, a fixed cable, USB pass-through that's going to be on there, and then the detachable wrist rest, right? So we can see right there with the wrist rest, most wrist rests, when you put it on, there's no lighting, but in this design, it's actually pretty cool. You can actually detach either the wrist rest and still have lighting that's on the primary portion of the actual keyboard, or you can actually attach the lighting and still also have lighting through the wrist rest. So it's pretty cool in that regard that you have both, okay? And there you can actually see the Armoury Matrix, how it kind of illuminates and gives you this cool kind of pixel graphics effect. And you can customize this. You can put different values in there, including things like a clock. You can actually put customized images, you can put text, you can put different values, and you can customize that all within the Armoury Matrix editor. And so that's a software that is part of the Armoury Crate suite. And so here you'll see without the actual wrist rest, but you still actually have that kind of cool little diffused bar. So let me go ahead and just remove that so you can see that a little bit more clearly, right? But you can see there the diffused bar is still present. But if we go back, you can see right there how that would look. So you can pretty much go either route. It's entirely up to you in terms of how you want to go about that. Let me see if I can kind of show that side by side there. Actually, it should be like that. So that's how it would kind of look. You can go either route, where you can go either with the wrist rest and have the diffused lighting bar right there, or you can have it just straight with the lighting down there at the bottom. Choice is entirely up to you as far as whatever you find to be more kind of comfortable. And just a couple of different shots right there. There's the USB pass-through that I talked about on this model, just like on the first generation. Okay, and if you guys remember when I was talking about kind of the linear to the tactile to the clicky switches, the brown ones would indicate that this is a tactile switch, but we do offer this, and still the most popular version is going to be the red switches. Those are going to be the linear switches. Okay. All right. So that is going to be the ROG Strix Flare 2 Animate. We are still going to go ahead and touch on a couple of other things with this one, because I want to actually talk about now the ROG NX based switches. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that in a little bit, but we're also going to talk a little bit about kind of some of the design elements on this keyboard. So let me go ahead and bring some of this up right here. Okay, so again, this is going to be with the ROG NX based red switches that it'll be available there. You can really see kind of that diffused light bar that I was going to be talking about, right? And here is that media button where I was talking about, right, where you've got that, of course, volume knob, but you also have the play, the pause, and then you can, of course, move that up or down, of course, for the track functionality. Now, this is another kind of upgrade that we have specifically for this generation, right, on some of our keyboards, which is going to be integrated sound dampening foam. And so the main point, if you've kind of never heard about this, is that sometimes when you're actually typing on a keyboard, so here, this one will sound a little bit different because I actually have different keycaps, and also the switches on here are lubed. These are our ROG NX based switches, is that you can get what's called pinging in the body. So there can be a little bit of reverberation that sometimes will occur depending on the body construction. And there's a lot of different things that affect this. But one of the things that can be done to kind of reduce a little bit of that sound and make the overall keyboard a little bit quieter, and like I said, also reduce some of that pinging, is going to be this integration of this sound dampening foam. So this is going to be kind of an upgrade compared to many traditional keyboards. It is going to be the integration of this dampening foam, okay? Another part is going to be this stabilizer design. So traditionally on most keyboards, when you take a look at the actual stabilizers of the stabs, as sometimes people use them from a short-term perspective, right, excuse me, a short wording perspective, is that they will not have kind of additional brace points for stability. And so they might seem a little bit looser than you might like. It depends. Some people are entirely fine with it and they never kind of worry about it, you know, essentially. But some people for acoustics, because they will also have a little bit more of a kind of a sound to them. Having the improved stabilizers gives you a nicer feel, but also it actually improves the sound as well. And so these actually do have an improved stabilizer design compared to a traditional or a standard keyboard. So that's going to be another upgrade element. So you can kind of tell within this Flare design, we've gone ahead and kind of tweaked a few things where it's not just kind of an upgrade in regards to, you know, a different lighting design or kind of like a different ID design. There's actual kind of feel and functional improvements that we've also incorporated here. Now, this is another part right here. As you can see, the PCB, you'll notice that there's no switches in this, and that's because the Flare 2 Animate does support what's called a hot swap PCB design. That means you have the ability that you can go ahead and take out the switches and you're going to replace them. So in like one of my keyboards, I actually will use really smooth linears for the primary keys, but then sometimes for my function keys, I might use maybe like a tactile switch. So I can really kind of click it and I can know that I'm feeling that switch every time that I press it. That's one of the cool things, is like you can actually have multiple switches on a keyboard, so you don't have to go all with the same switch. It's kind of up to you if you want to do that. Keep in mind though, it can be a real rabbit hole kind of trying to go through different types of switches, and it can be quite expensive depending on the switches that you go with. So it's not something that I kind of always will recommend to people. I do think that the ROG NX switches that we have are quite good, and you don't need to kind of replace them, especially because they're also pre-lubed and they're pre-binned for more consistency, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But you know, if you do want the ability to customize your switches, then this is one of the keyboards that we do offer that gives you the ability to swap out the switches. So again, you could start off with linears, and if you wanted to change to tactiles, then you could change to tactiles. Okay, and there you can see how you can go ahead and remove the switches. Pretty straightforward, right? And it does also come included with that cool little keycap puller that's also offered there. There's the USB pass-through that I talked about, right? And there it is, kind of like in a nice little desk setup, just kind of showing you how it would kind of look with some of our other peripherals. Sound dampening foam, and you're good to go there. So that is going to be the ROG Strix Flare to Animate. And let me go ahead and, if I didn't drop that one in the chat, let me go ahead and drop it in the chat right now. That one is going to be coming in right now at $218. That is going to be for the ROG RX switches, excuse me, ROG NX based switches. And I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about those switches right now, but let me go quickly see if there's any kind of questions right there. So Adam Baker says the rocking of the space bar is annoying to me. Yeah, so if you find that you want a little bit more stability specifically kind of within the space bar, then that's going to be one of the benefit of the improved stabs. I actually don't find the space bar that bothersome to me. I find keycap wobble to be much more bothersome to me, and specifically we have our ROG RX switches, which are optical switches, which have significantly better what is called force deviation stability. So it means that if you actually press anywhere on the keycap, it doesn't wobble. So you know, different people have different preferences, you know, but that's the reason why we of course have you know, different types of designs to complement the different types of people, right? Reds are less noise than browns. Yes, if you want a quieter switch, you can get kind of quieter tactiles, but overall as a whole, linears or reds are going to be quieter than the browns. These all work with ASUS Aura Sync. Yes, they were all fully compatible with ASUS Aura Sync. Okay. Let's see, PGPCs, both the Flare and the Flare 2 Animate are both amazing keyboards. Use the Animate for my personal and the Flare for my test bench. Awesome. Hey, great feedback from somebody that's actually using those those keyboards. So thanks for that feedback, PGPCs. Very, very cool. Yeah, if you really like the 10 key, especially like in a test bench or kind of a setup environment, I do use the 10 key a lot. That's one of the reasons why actually the Claymore II, which I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, is one of my kind of consistent daily drivers, because I can take off the 10 key when I don't need it to give me a little bit better ergonomics. But you know, the Flare 2 with that really nice design is pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, so Rack Messy, the model that I just talked about, the Flare 2, right, is the one that has the hot swap switch design. So now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our ROG NX based switches and kind of how they differ in terms of kind of what you're going to be looking at when you kind of compare these two. So give me 1 second here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we'll bring this up here. So give me 1 second. Okay, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So this is just a little bit of a video right here to kind of talk a little bit about our kind of ROG switches, right? And so one of the things that we designed when we decided to do when we designed and developed here our ROG NX-based switches was to be able to go ahead and offer a couple of points of improvement. So one you can see right there is going to be the actuation and the reset point. That essentially means that when you depress it, right, you don't actually have a different point that causes the switch to register. It's essentially a reset point, so that when you go ahead and depress it again, you can essentially kind of consistently click through it. So kind of going through that again, right? One is going to be the reset of that actuation and that reset point. Another point is going to be that we actually what are called bin these. And so when you technically produce a whole bunch of switches, you can actually find that some switches actually have what's called more deviation than another switch. So an example of this is, let's say you were to kind of like take 100 switches, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just pull this back and let's just talk about the keyboard. Is if you were to take all these switches and let's say the actuation force is like 55 grams, okay, for one switch, you might actually find that one switch could be higher than this. It could be like 65 or maybe even 70 grams, and it could actually be below this. It could actually have a gram force deviation in the plus or minus. And so the industry average tends to be about 10 gram force deviation. For the ROG RX switches, we actually will bin these in production to be much tighter at a plus or minus 5 gram force deviation. And so essentially that just means that the consistency of these switches in terms of their feel and their actuation is going to be much better across the entirety of the keyboard. So especially if you're a touch typist, I think this is a nice value proposition. It's not something that actually a lot of keyboard manufacturers will even talk about, is the fact that inherently when you get you get a switch, there's inherently going to be deviation within them. So this is definitely a nice premium benefit that you're getting, and this is part of the reason why our ROG NX switches are a little bit more expensive, is because they also have to account for this superior low deviation. Okay. Our ROG NX switches also do have a small amount of what's called pre-lubrication, and so the lubrication is part of the actual spring. So right here you can see that there's like a little spring right here, and this is actually internally lubricated, and this just helps to make the switch feel a little bit smoother, what's called a little less scratchy, and also produces a little less noise. So overall, it's not a large amount, but it helps to improve the overall feel and kind of the noise profile of the switch. So again, kind of recapping, we have that reset actuation point and reset and actuation point is going to be essentially parity, about the same. Then we also have that factory binning for more consistent feel, right? Because there's going to be less gram force deviation. And then we have the lubrication element that's also going to be in the ROG NX based switches, right? So they do come in all kind of variants. So we have them in ROG NX. we have them in the reds, we have them in the blues, and then we have them in the browns. But most of the keyboards that we're going to be talking about when we're talking especially about the promotion models, usually it's going to be the reds that are going to be most on sale. Okay, so that is going to kind of break that down. So that Flare 2 Animate keyboard that we talked about, right, that we just talked about, that model is going to be using the ROG NX based switches, unlike the original Flare, which is going to be the Cherry MX based switches. Okay, so that should hopefully cover that there. All right, let me go ahead and see if we have any other kind of questions that might have come up right there. Hey, Avi, yeah, if you've got a question right there, I don't want to take too much time in that stream. Feel free to go ahead and post that in the PCDIY group. It's linked in the description. I definitely had no problems trying to answer your question right there, or we have a great community that should be able to answer that. But I want to try to keep this focused on just our keyboards right here. Does it come with brown switches? Yeah, so if you're looking for brown switches on the ROG Strix Flare 2, it does come also in brown switches, yes. Hey, Sneff. Hey, JJ's PC. RC Cosplay has the Tough Gaming K3. Yeah, that actually is definitely a much more entry-level keyboard, but it's a solid keyboard. It's not super expensive. It has actually a decent feel. It's actually also a very quiet keyboard because it's kind of a hybrid-based switch design, so it's pretty cool in that regard. All right, so let's get ready to go ahead and get over into the next model right here. And keep in mind also, if you're looking for a little bit of a lower cost option from that ROG Strix Flare 2 Animate, we also have the standard ROG Strix Flare, so the non-animate. So there is actually kind of like a second version that we do have between that one model. So I will quickly just show you that model there just so you can kind of see it for reference. You still get quite a number of the upgrades, but it's going to not have some of the other points on there. So this is going to be the non-animate version if you guys want that. And next we're going to go into the TKL based model here. So, but if you guys are interested in the Flare 2, but not the animate version, then we do have this one. And this one will still give you quite a number of upgrades. So you're going to get the 8,000 hertz polling rate. You're going to have the USB pass-through design. You get the sound dampening foam, hardware level controls, right, that are going to be on this unit, integrated memory, right, so you can have multiple profiles, PBT double shot keycaps, which are going to be premium in terms of giving you essentially no legend fade. So if you have maybe a more basic keyboard that has what are called like ABS keycaps or different types of keycaps that are not PBT, non-double shot, essentially what will happen over time is that these legends will wear away. With a double shot, essentially this goes through the entire keycap. So even as you kind of rub the keycap with your fingers over time, the legend will never fade. It will essentially always be there, so it's always present. Okay. They also tend to resist shine much more than other types of keycaps. So if you kind of wear your keycaps a lot and you kind of get a little bit of shiny characteristic, going with PBT double shot keycaps are going to be better in that regard as well. They come also in the ROG NX based switch. You get the improved stabilizers that are going to be on here. The main item that you don't get on here is you don't get the hot swap PCB design, and you then don't have the animate display, but this one also still does come with the sound dampening foam and also that wrist rest. So you get quite a bit of those elements right there, but that Flare 2 Animate is also going to take the RGB lighting a little bit more because it has that front light bar, and then it also has the diffused light bar, right? Okay, so that is going to be the Flare 2 Animate. Excuse me, Flare 2 non-animate, and then the one that we showed in front was the ROG Strix Flare 2 Animate, right? So easiest way to kind of separate those two is just one is the animate model and one is not the non-animate model. All right, so next let's go ahead and talk about some TKL. So this is going to be the ROG Strix Scope TKL. So this is going to be 10 keyless. So essentially just means no actual numpad on the model. It's going to pretty much look just like this model right here, except it's going to be black. It's actually the model that I've got right here next to me. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat. Open up the link right here so we can get this one here. So give me 1 second. ROG Strix Scope TKL. And this one, let me go ahead and check the pricing on this one. So this one is normally $110 right now, and right now you can get it for $96 essentially. So you get a little bit of a price savings right there. So again, normally $110 and right now $96. And the brown switches are actually cheaper. Brown switches right now are on sale. It's a 25% sale. So going from $110 to $83. Okay. So you can go ahead and pick the one that you want. I'm going to go ahead and drop this one in the chat right here. All right. And so let me go ahead and I guess show this one. I'll show this one off a little bit kind of over there on that secondary display there. Our ROG Strix Scope NX TKL Moonlight Red switches. Yes, so we're going to be talking about the Moonlight White in a little bit. That one is also on sale, but those are using the ROG NX based switches, so we're not talking about that one yet. But I just did talk about the NX based switches, right? So right here, you guys can see this unit right here. It's pretty cool. I've had it here on my kind of demo setup for a long time. Now, one of the cool things that you also get with a kind of standard keyboard when we talk about either using the ROG NX based switches or the Cherry MX based switches is that you can go ahead and swap these keycaps. So these are not the standard keycaps. It comes with very different keycaps. I will show you the keycaps that it kind of comes with. Let me go ahead and just kind of bring that up here. You'll see right here, these are the keycaps that it comes with. Right, these are of course different. They're actually pretty much kind of like this little smoked diffuse pattern, which I think looks really cool to kind of even show off the RGB lighting more. So just keep that in mind, is that it doesn't come with these, but with standard either Cherry MX or the ROG NX based switches, you can pull off the keycaps and you can swap them because they are pretty standard. The only thing that you have to watch out for though is going to be that some keycaps are maybe non-standard in terms of their sizing. So like here you can see our space bar is non-standard, so I couldn't replace the keycap for that. You then also sometimes have other keycaps, maybe like the enlarged control, which might be something that you'll have to go with like a standard size keycap and you don't have that enlarged control button. So that is just kind of something to be mindful of right there, right? But TKL based model, so that means that there's no 10 key, right? You still have your dedicated isolated arrow keys, which I like. These buttons right here, which sometimes some people use them, sometimes some people don't use them. I do like using page up, page down, and home, especially for web browsing. I find it to be very convenient for web browsing, so I do utilize it. Another kind of hallmark that you have with the ROG Strix Scope TKL is going to be this really cool kind of diffused light bar that it has here in the front. So it gives it kind of a really nice kind of cool design aesthetic, right? So you have a little bit of that nice kind of front perimeter lighting, and then of course you have all the individual per key lighting on the keyboard. And this model is just like the Moonlight White that I showed right there, where it does have a detachable keyboard, detachable cable design. So on the back of the keyboard, you can see right here, this cable, you can actually go ahead and detach it. It is a USB-C cable, so if you want to go ahead and kind of swap that cable out, you can do that. That choice is entirely up to you. So you'll see right here, there's a little recessed USB port, and if you want to go ahead and swap that out, you can. So I'll go ahead and show you an example of that. I think I've got a cable right here. Maybe you want to go with something kind of like one of these, like, Cable Mod, great company. They make quite a number of keyboards. They even have kind of color match some of our colors. Like there's a Republic Red, which would be kind of an ROG Red, but they have many other kind of colors, and you can get them. These kind of what are called aviator cables, they also allow you to go ahead and kind of detach them. So if you want to have like a quick disconnect and maybe pull away your keyboard or something like that, you can do that, but it's not like a requirement. Some people don't like them, some people do like them. It can be a little bit kind of over complicated just for kind of a cable. I sometimes just like having a straight lightweight cable, but to each his own when it comes to their preference. But you can go ahead and of course attach the cable, and now you've got a customized cable. So many of our models do have a detachable USB-C cable connection port, so you can go ahead and swap those out. You can go with whatever you want. Okay, so it does come of course with the cable inside the box. Choice is up to you in terms of what you want to go ahead and have access to there. Okay. All right, so that I went ahead and dropped that one in the chat, and again, that one, what's the sale pricing on it? Again, let me go ahead and just run through that. So the Cherry MX red switches on that one is going to be normally $110, and right now on sale for $96. And then we have the brown switches, which is normally $110 and on sale for $83, right? So again, if you guys are wondering, this is the link that I sent over in Amazon. You can see right there, right? $110 normally, right now $83. And then for the red switches, you can see normally $110, and right now it is $90, about $93, right, approximately, right? So nice little price savings that you have available to you. And then the blue switches, they are out of stock right now, so you can't get the blue switches. So it's just going to be reds or browns if you want to go that route. There is also this model right here. There's the Electro Punk version. The Electro Punk version is really cool. And of course, you can see right there, it has this really cool kind of design where it's got pink, of course, keycaps right there, the Electro Punk edition keycaps. All the elements that I talked about are exactly the same, and this one also is on sale. So $110 down to $95. So you have a couple of different options available to you on that model. And I think somebody beat me to it where I was going to go ahead and then talk about the Moonlight White model, which is this one right here. So let me go ahead and get to that model right there. So give me 1 second. And we will talk about that one here. But that one is also on sale. So let me link that one there in the chat. All right, and let me go ahead and ROG, do I have that one over here? I should have it right here. Yep, ROG Strix Scope TKL Moonlight White Edition, right, which has the ROG NX based switches. So again, remember guys, the prior scope, this one that I was just showing you right here, this one comes with the Cherry MX, right? So it had those in the reds and the browns. And then on the Moonlight White, you're going to get the NX based switches, right? And so the NX based switches have that optimized actuation and reset point. They're factory pre-lubed. They have that tighter gram force deviation, right? So they're going to be much more consistent in terms of their actuation point, right? That is going to be also another difference that you have right there. And this one has a nice savings price. This one's a pretty big savings right here, 33% off. So normally $120, and right now it's coming in at $80, right? So nice price savings right there. You can go ahead and see right there, there's also the brown switches. Let's go ahead and see the brown switches. The brown is on sale. The brown's not on sale. So the red switches are the ones that you're going to want to get if you don't want to pick up this keyboard right here. Okay. All right, and I did drop that one in the chat. I'll go ahead and connect this one really quick again, just so people can see it a little bit closer in terms of the camera. Keep in mind that the switches that I have on here right now, I did change these change these switches, but I did change these keycaps. These are ceramic keycaps that are on here. Hey, Will Williams, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and post them in the PCDIY group. It's linked in the description below. Use the support template if you're looking for kind of feedback. But generally, I tell you, zero codes are generally going to be related to, I would say, probably an issue with your mounting with your CPU. So I would take a look at kind of resolving that. Okay. Is that a webcam on top of the PC? I'm not sure what you mean. Like here? No, this is it's actually a GPU support brace, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look at this one right here. It's going to be the Moonlight White. All right, so there you guys can kind of just see, it's got this really nice aluminum top cover right there. You still get that nice kind of diffused light bar that's also going to be on the Moonlight White edition right here. The function key, again, remember the function key with the arrow key will allow you to go ahead and control the lighting, so you can increase the brightness or you can change the mode. Of course, on all of these you can use the Armoury Crate software and the Aura Creator software. Aura Creator would be if you want to go and kind of specifically control all of the LEDs, so per LED kind of lighting control. If you just kind of want to go with different patterns, then you could do that through the actual Armoury Crate software. So let me go ahead and see. I can show you guys quickly the UI interface, right? So I'll bring it up here on my laptop. I'll share my screen on my laptop, and you guys can kind of see it. So right here, you can see this is we're showing this is the UI interface, right, for the Armoury Crate software. You can see that I have actually my keyboards all set up here for Aura Sync. I can go to Aura Effects, and then I can go ahead and I can pick a different profile. So if I want to go ahead and maybe go to like this kind of cool little blue to kind of purple to kind of red kind of gradient, then I can go with that kind of gradient, right? Or I can go with something like this, right? This has got a little bit kind of a more pattern to it. You can adjust the speed right there, right? We can go, of course, to the full rainbow. right? We can go with this kind of static red. That is also a little bit of gradient. You can go with, of course, individual colors if you want to too, right? Entirely up to you if you want to do that. You got breathing, strobing, color cycle, rainbow, starry night, music mode, smart. Smart is actually linked to your temperature. So if you actually want to have your lighting based on your temperature or your CPU usage, you can do that. Adaptive color will actually change depending actually on the zone that you're telling it to capture kind of lighting from. And then there's dark, which is disabled. And then Aura Creator, which you'll see that there's an effect. Once you save the actual Aura Creator effect, would mean that you would then have a profile that you can select, and that will generally be for kind of customized lighting for, like I said, every individual key. So if you want to go and set, like, you know, this pattern to be one color scheme, this pattern to be another color scheme, this pattern to be another color scheme, this one to be another color scheme, you could do that, but you need to go into the Aura Creator software to have that like kind of more advanced level of control. So that's entirely up to you if you want to go that route. You don't have to, of course. It's entirely up to you. Okay, all right, and so that is going to be the ROG Strix Scope Moonlight White. All right, pretty cool. And again, remember, these keycaps are different. These are going to be the ceramic keycaps that I did go ahead and change those out, but I will show you an image of kind of what the final keycaps, the original keycaps look like on that model. All right, let me go ahead and bring up those keycaps for the Moonlight White, just so you can quickly see that. All right, here we go. Yeah, this will work. These are the original keycaps, so you can see that the font is, of course, a little bit different than I showed, and you'll also see the other big differences on those keycaps. They do actually have the media icons, right? So play, stop, previous, skip, right? A volume, those are all on there, including the stealth key, which will automatically minimize and mute everything on your system. And then also profiles. You can see profile 1, profile 2, profile 3, profile 4, profile 5, and default. That allows you to go ahead and kind of toggle between different modes. So if you want to have different kind of customized kind of keyboard profiles, then you can do that. That's also something that can be stored, which is pretty cool. And here's just a little bit of reference when we talked about the ROG NX switches to the to the MX based switches, where you can see some of the key information. So the actuation point, the actuation force, and then the total force. Probably the most important is probably going to be this actuation force for most people. That actually is going to be like the amount that you have to depress that switch in terms of it actually engaging, right, or actuating. 45 is kind of a nice balance. There are some ones that have even a much lower value than this. That can be kind of almost slippery, where like if you really just kind of you just lightly touch on it, it will engage the switch. So you get sometimes mistakes, or sometimes people just resting their fingers maybe will accidentally kind of push down onto it. I tend to be kind of in the generally the realm that I like, kind of 45 to 55. 45, especially with the lube, feels pretty good, but I like in that 45 to 55 gram. This is not bad. Also the 58, and then the blues generally are going to be a little bit heavier, so they tend to be a little bit higher. So you're going to have 65, okay? All right, so again, this one's on sale right now, so you can pick this one up for a nice little saving. So that's going to be the ROG NX based switch, the ROG Strix Scope TKL, so that means no 10 key, and that's going to be the NX. All right, so let's go ahead and see if we had any other questions that came up right there. JJ's PC Builds, man, you kill it, man. JJ's PC Builds, you do some awesome stuff, so very, very cool. Thanks for joining us right here. Hey, Kadar, happy to have you from Turkey as well. Oh, very cool. So Kadar actually is giving you some good feedback, guys. If you guys are interested in picking up the Moonlight White and the Flare 2, he actually has both of them. Pretty cool. That's nice because he actually has both of them have the ROG NX based switches. So that means he's definitely a fan of the NX based switches. And the Flare 2, it's nice. Hey, Kadar, what are your thoughts? Do you notice the sound dampening foam that's on the Flare 2 compared to not having the sound dampening foam? Hey, Tech 505 Esports Labs, man, happy to have you, man. Thanks for joining us here on the stream. Very, very cool. All right, so that is going to be TKL right there. All right, let's keep moving it along. All right, so Just for reference, also on that model, I will let you know that we also have a standard ROG Strix Scope NX TKL. So pretty much like this model, right? But in black as opposed to the Moonlight White. So I'm not going to spend the time to kind of go over that model in its entirety, right? But we do have that model available to you. So I will go ahead and share that one in the chat there as well. Okay. And that one is on sale as well. So if you kind of just want the standard black model of that one, it is available. You can see right here, 30% off. So normally $120, and right now it's $84. And then you can see right there that the brown, it's actually even a little bit cheaper. Normally $120 and $80, but both of them roughly about that similar kind of price reduction as well, right? So you are good to go in that regard. It's a little bit of a weird picture. That's a better picture right there for it. But those are both TKL. They're both the same, right? So the browns, $79.99, and the reds, essentially $84. So $80 or $84. And you can see nice price savings compared to the $120. So gonna drop that one there in the chat. And that's the same keyboard again as the Moonlight White, because those also come with the ROG NX based switches. Okay. All right, and we do also have a deluxe version of that one, and the deluxe version is also on sale. Pretty much the only difference with the deluxe version is the deluxe version comes with the wrist rest. So if you want this wrist rest, we normally sell this wrist rest for $20, but if you don't want to get the wrist rest, then you don't have to, right? It's entirely up to you, right? But if you want the wrist rest, you can see normally $140, and then this one right here is $126. And let's see the red version. Red version, that one's a bigger savings, $140 to $100. Okay, so you can go ahead and pick that one up right there. So I will go ahead and drop that one in the chat there as well. Let me go ahead and drop that in there. And it looks like the other link that I dropped in there might have not gone through. So if you guys can let me know if the ROG Strix Scope NX TKL link went through, then that would be appreciated, so I can go ahead and do that. I will go ahead and double check that. All right. If not, go ahead and check the link in the description on YouTube. I did go ahead and drop all of those in there, so they are pretty much visible. So you can just go ahead and search those, and you'll kind of see the pricing available to you, right? So we did talk about this one, the ROG Strix Scope TKL, the Moonlight White. We talked about the ROG Strix Scope NX TKL, right? And then we also talked about the ROG Strix Scope Deluxe, right? Yep. So I think that should be all of those. Cool. Okay, we got those all the way. So let's go ahead and get into some wireless keyboard options right here. ROG Strix Moonlight White is still actually, Kadar, that, well, in your country, yeah. So right now, all the promotions I'm talking about right now, these are all for the US, right? So if you're watching us from somewhere else in the world, sorry, these pricing is all specific to North American market right now. So these promotions that we are talking about are just for ASUS North America. All right, so next up, let's go ahead and talk about some wireless keyboards right here. So these are going to generally be keyboards that should be wireless and wired based options, okay? So first one that we're going to talk about right here is going to be the ROG Falchion. If you guys have ever watched any of my streams, you know that I've talked about this keyboard a lot, and I've definitely used it quite a bit here. So this is going to be, again, a 65% keyboard, so it's going to be quite a bit more compact than your TKL based keyboard, right? You still have the, like I said, arrow keys that are going to be on this model. Another really cool kind of design benefit is going to be that it has these integrated touch bar. So the touch bar can actually be used as volume. So let me go ahead and see if I can show you guys here on this one, if it'll let me go ahead and focus in on it. So there you go. So you actually can see there's this cool little touch bar. So you can actually adjust that for volume, or you can actually tap it. So you can actually have some different level of control. So normally on a 65%, you are going to have a lower level of kind of functionality. But I think having that touch bar is a nice addition to be able to go ahead and give you just a little bit more flexibility at, you know, having essentially some different keys, having less keys and getting the better ergonomics, right? But still having a nice little functionality to it, right? And you still have actually these buttons right here. Will be, this is play and pause. This is stop. This is going to be a previous, and this is going to be skip, and this is your volume. So you just have to use essentially the function keys, and you can go ahead and map those out. And then also right here,
You have, of course, quick toggle functions as well. So a nice level of functionality and flexibility that you have available. And this one also does support the hardware level lighting control. So with the function button and the arrow keys, you can still go ahead and adjust your lighting controls as well. So you have that available to you. On this one, you can also see that USB-C port. So it's a detachable USB-C cable. And then right here, I'm using the wireless, but the wireless is going to be a 2.4 gigahertz adapter, and it can store directly into that. So that makes it really nice and convenient. So if you want essentially a nice just place where you don't have to worry about losing it, then that is a really nice option. So let me go ahead and show you actually another cool feature of the Falchion, which is going to be that it comes with this cool little top cover. So the top cover right here, you can go ahead and install it right there, and then you could throw this like into a bag. You don't have to worry about kind of getting damaged. Also, a lot of people, oddly enough, we get people that have like cats or like dust, debris, dander, things that kind of get into the keyboard. So this is a nice thing that you can just kind of put it on there, and you don't have to worry about anything getting on the inside of the keyboard. It's nice and protected, and you're good to go. So this is a nice little option that you have available to you to protect your Falchion. And this can actually be used both on the top and on the bottom. So on the bottom, you could actually use it kind of like a diffusion. So there's actually right here, you'll see that it has little feet, and the feet act as a little stabilizer. And then you can go ahead and take the keyboard and you can dock it in there. And if I turn this one back on, and you'll see right there that it kind of has like this like cool little like diffused look to it. So it's a little bit softer in terms of the overall look and feel, and you still have, of course, access there to the touch bar, and you have that little kind of diffused look. So there's the look, of course, without the case, where the LEDs are a little bit stronger, right? And then you kind of have it in there, and now it's got a little bit of a diffused look to it. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the Falchion. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick drink of water as well. There's the Falchion. And again, this is 65% keyboard. That touch panel, you can also, like I said, customize it within the Armoury Crate software. So you can go ahead and change it up. You have some different tweaking options. You have that nice lightweight cable. There's the storage adapter bay for the actual 2.4 gigahertz. So again, you can use this wired or wireless. Long battery life. Of course, the longest battery life will come with generally a static color, as well as also excuse me, with reduced brightness. You do actually have quick charging support on there. It does support wireless sync. Many peripherals don't always support kind of both levels of control, so wireless syncing and wired syncing. So sometimes there's going to be differences in terms of how their lighting support works, so that keep that in mind. But we do actually offer you the ability to have full wireless syncing support, both wired and wireless, right? So you have both options available to you, okay? And just also another item right here that I do want to go ahead and touch on is going to be, if we take a look at the inside, this is what comes in the box. You get this nice little cable, right? You also do have a little extension. So the extension can sometimes be useful for the RF adapter. So this is going to be your RF adapter that sometimes if you need to maybe position it or move it in a different spot so that you can get kind of optimal reception, you do have that flexibility. So that is included inside the case for the Falchion. So this one has a really big price savings on it, guys, right now. Should be $50 off if I remember correctly. So let's go ahead and take a look right here. So let's see. Yeah, here. So here's the ROG Falchion, normally $150, and the blue version is on sale, so 20% off for $120. So 150 versus 120, that means you got $30 savings. There's only one left. So if somebody wants, you really want that, then check it out. There should be a restock as well. Also, we do also usually always recommend that you consider shipping and buying from Amazon as far as a first party as opposed to a third party, so do keep that in mind. This one should be shipped and sold by Amazon, which you can see right here. This is a shipped and sold by Amazon. This would be similar for Newegg. Of course, if you're buying from the ASUS store, that's also going to be at the ASUS store. That's going to be a full course directly from ASUS. But you can see right here for the Reds, that's a great deal right now. So the Reds, you can see it's 33% off. So normally $150 and it's $100 right now. So I really think this is a great option to pick up. 150 bucks, $100, okay? And then the Browns also are on sale as well. So the Browns, wow, the Browns are even a bigger sale. That's from Adorama. Adorama is a great ASUS partner. They do resale. This is ship and sold. Generally, if there's going to be one from Amazon, you'll see it's down here. So Amazon actually has it at a little bit still of a higher price. It's still a savings. It's a $30 savings, but you could get it from Adorama right now. So 150 down to $90. So if you really like those Browns, then maybe you want to go that route. Now we do have the ROG Falchion in an NX based version. So the NX based version is going to be essentially the same keyboard, right? There's no difference. It just has that improvement in terms of the switches, right? So the NX based version, I'm going to go ahead and drop that one in the chat as well. And that one, we have the ROG blue, red, and brown switches as well. But that one will be a little bit more expensive because, again, remember, you're going to be getting essentially that upgrade to the switch, right? Where you're going to get a lubricated switch. You get that little improvement in terms of the gram force deviation. So the consistency of the switch, right, is also going to be present there. And then also the actuation and the reset point is a little bit different, and I think it's a little bit more optimal, right? So let's go ahead and take a look there and see what our pricing is for that. So here we can see the ROG NX linears. Wow. Okay, this might be the one to get, in my opinion, right here, right? So this is maybe an even better deal. So the ROG Falchion was $100, but I did not realize we had dropped it. Where this is $90. So normally $150. So the ROG NX usually is a little bit more expensive, usually a $10 premium, if not sometimes a little bit more. But this one's $90. So this is 40% off. So if you really want to get yourself this nice compact keyboard, I would go with the Falchion NX and get those ROG NX based linear switches, which I really, really like. So that is a great deal. You can see there's only 8 left. I'm going to go ahead and drop that one in the chat for you guys if you guys want to check it out. It's the same everything exactly the same that I talked about. The only difference is going to be the switches. So we have the Cherry MX switches, or you can get the ROG NX based switches. You can also see that the Browns there, that's $110, so that's still a nice savings, $40 savings compared to the $150, $50. And the blues, they're not on sale. They're pretty much like almost the same price, right? So they're not on sale. So if you really want quickie switches, you can get it, but you're not going to get any savings right there. So if you want the recommendation, though, I would get the Reds. The Reds at that price point, I think, are a fantastic deal. All right. So let me go ahead and drop that in there for that price. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and see. These are some crazy discounts. Yeah, I mean, yeah, 40% off, I think, for that Falchion. That's a crazy deal. I think that's a really, really crazy deal. You consider there's almost no other keyboard like it, that you're going to get this really, really nice top cover. You get the integrated memory profile support. You get the wired and the wireless connection. You get the touch bar. You get the hardware level lighting control on this model, right? Really, really great option, right? And for $90, that's really hard to beat. Again, normally $150, so 40% off. I think that's a really great price point. Hey, Remus PCs, fantastic. Yeah, thanks for letting us know. Yeah, I think that is a great price point that you've got right there. So that is going to be the ROG Falchion NX, okay? So nice price savings that we got on that model. All right, let's go ahead and keep moving this along. Go to the next model. What do we got next up here? We've got the ROG Strix Scope NX Wireless Deluxe. Wow, that's a big name, right? All right, give me 1 second to go ahead and load this one up. This one, it's not going to be on sale. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm just going to let you guys know about it. This one is going to be $160 that we have available. This is still a pretty new model that we have, okay? But let's go ahead and quickly just show you a little bit about what we've got on this model right here. So give me 1 second. And this is going to be just a nice option, I guess, if you guys are going to be looking for, this is the ROG Strix Scope NX Wireless Deluxe, yeah. And here we go, okay, yep. So on this model, you're going to see essentially right here, the big thing that you're going to get is going to be that you get tri-mode connectivity. So essentially, if you want to be able to have Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz, and USB-C, this one will give you all 3 of them, okay? So that's a really nice option to be able to use everything from kind of your phone, to your laptop, to your desktop PC. You do have that full wireless support. It has PBT double shot keycaps. A lot of keyboards don't come with PBT double shot keycaps, so much more premium keycaps. And then you're also going to be getting on this model that wrist rest, because it is the deluxe. Remember, the deluxe is always on our kind of design. It just essentially means that it comes included with that wrist rest. So I'm not going to spend the time recapping the NX switches we talked about. Again, that's going to be that you're going to get the factory lubrication, you're going to get the reset and the actuation point, which has been optimized, and you get the binning so that they're much more consistent in terms of their gram force deviation. You also get that nice and large control key, which if you're kind of reaching over with your pinky, makes it a little bit easier, and hardware level lighting control support on this model as well. So that is going to be the ROG Strix Scope NX Wireless Deluxe that you have available right there. And this one's going to be $160 if you're interested in picking up this one. Okay. All right. So that is going to be that. All right. So we've got a couple of last wireless models to talk about, but I'm going to quickly go to wired just because we're going to shift over now to talk about to our other set of switches, which are going to include our ROG RX switches. So we talked about NX, but now we're going to talk about RX. And RX means that it's our optical switch, and there's some really cool things that we do with this switch right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at this guy right here. I need Dyson says I need white and wireless. Sorry, I don't have white and wireless. We have a really great model that has brown switches and is a wired and has a detachable cable. We just talked about that a little bit earlier, and I linked it in the chat. It is on sale right now. That is this one right here. This is the ROG Strix Scope Moonlight White with the ROG NX based switches. So we do have it in the ROG NX linears or the tactiles, but it is not a wireless model. It is going to be wired, but it does have a detachable cable design. So if you are maybe okay with this model, which I really do love this model, then you can check that one out. I did go ahead and link it in the description, and it's in the chat. If maybe you can kind of find it, you'll see it in there. But I don't have a wireless model right now, at least for that. Okay. Is there a white one with the Anime Matrix display? No. The ROG Strix Flare 2 Animate, which we showed off a little bit earlier, which has that cool little Animate display that we have on there, that only comes in kind of that kind of black silver colorway that we have. Okay. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the ROG RX based switches, and we're going to first use this model to talk about this, which it's one of my actual favorite keyboards. It's got a really nice feel to it, and this is going to be the ROG Strix Scope RX. So this is a full-size keyboard, but there's some cool things actually about this design which I really like. So the first thing that I want to go ahead and just let you guys know on is that right now this one is on sale, so I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the link. This is normally $120 for this model, and you can right now, excuse me, $130, and you can get it for $118. Or you can get the blue switches, which are the clicky ones, the loud switches, and that's going to be $90. So instead of $130, it's going to be $90. So it does have actually a nice little bit of a price savings. But we're going to go ahead and talk about actually what I think is some of the coolest elements about specifically the ROG RX based switches. So the first thing that you may or may not notice is if you probably can't compare it to this one, but if we actually were to take a look and we were going to put these side by side, is that the actual legends, you'll notice that these are centered. On a standard keyboard, the legends are always offset, they're raised, and that's just because of the way that the actual stem design is implemented. So the stem does not allow you to have a legend that is centered, and I really like the look of a centered legend. I think it's just like, maybe it's a little bit of the OCD in me, but I really like that kind of design characteristic. So if I go ahead and compare this, give me 1 second, I'm going to go and grab our standard switch version, not the ROG RX switch, but the standard switch, and you guys will see kind of the difference here. Thankfully, I've got a motherboard that has lots of USB ports. It's probably going like, JJ, why do you have so many keyboards connected to one system? Like the Armoury Crate software is like, why do I have 3 keyboards connected to me? Right? But let me see if I can go ahead and maybe set this one down here. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And I'll put this one here on the display, and I'll hold this one up here. All right, so there we go. And now we're going to go ahead and take the other one. So they will look pretty similar, but one of the things that you're going to see is, if you'll notice, on the ROG RX switch on the bottom, it's brighter, right? And part of that is because the actual LED design is centrally underneath the keycap. So on the top, you have your traditional kind of Cherry MX or even the ROG NX based switch, right? And then on the bottom, you have the ROG RX based switch. So the ROG RX based switch is going to be a brighter switch. And then on top of that, you'll also notice that the legends, like I said, they're going to be a little bit larger, but they're also in the center. And I'll put this under the secondary camera so maybe you can see it a little bit more clearly, but you'll notice that there's a difference in that regard. So that's going to be one of the first differences. It's just the aesthetic difference between the optical switch and then your standard mechanical switch. So the other thing that I talked about here is that this is an optical switch. So an optical switch means that this actually uses light to actually actuate, as opposed to a mechanism that is actually making contact, right? So that is going to be a little bit different right there. So let me go ahead and move these over here and see if we can actually show you. So give me 1 second here. All right, so go ahead and get these lined up for you guys here. Okay, so how can we do this easily? Okay, I think that should work there, and yeah, I think that should be close enough. You guys can kind of maybe tell right there. All right, so let's go ahead and switch this over. All right, so a little bit, let's see if we can straighten that out just a little bit. Okay, so here we're talking about the ROG RX based switches, right? And so you can see here with the ROG RX based switches, these is on the bottom right here, this is the ROG RX based switches, and here on the top would be your standard switches. So this is both the same keyboard. This is the actual Strix Scope. This is the full size keyboard, right? And like I noted here, you're going to get a little bit more brightness on the RX based switch, and you'll also notice that the actual legend is in the center. So if you notice, like right here, you can see like the U, it's right there in the center, and then take a look at the U right here where the U is actually lifted up at the top, right? And we actually have a little bit more balanced lighting. And so let's go and actually take a look a little bit further at this, and let's see if we can find a good example. So we'll do maybe 9 here. Can I do it with 9? Can you guys see both 9? I think you guys can see both the 9. So let me go ahead and pull that one off, and let me pull this one off. Okay, so here you can see that's the RX based switch, and the actual LED right there is in the center. And here on a traditional design, you'll actually see that it depends. Sometimes they will actually be what is called a south-facing LED, or there'll be a north-facing LED. And so here you can see this is a north-facing LED, so it's on the top weighted. And so the advantage of generally having this type of design here is the actual housing is actually clearer, and we get actually a more balanced level of light distribution around the entirety of the switch, where here it's a little bit more top weighted. It's a little bit more top heavy. And as I also noted, right, you can see right there the kind of the difference in terms of one's being center and one's being top weighted, right? So that's the other difference. Now the other difference right here is, let's go ahead and get a little bit closer, is if we actually take a look there at the two switches. So here you have a center point stem, and here you have a 4-point stem. So this is what we use on our ROG optical switch, and this is on your traditional kind of Cherry MX or your ROG NX based switch. So you have a center stem. Now this gives you the flexibility. You can swap out the keycaps if you want to go with different keycaps, but the advantage of this 4-point stem is that it's going to be quite a bit more stable. And so an example of this is if I go back to this 0, here you'll see, just watch this very closely. I'll go ahead and increase the brightness for you guys a little bit. There we go. So we went a little bit brighter. So here you can see the switch. You see how now just kind of touching the switch, it wiggles around? Yeah, you get that wiggle. That is called just, it's wobble, it's keycap, it's normal. This is something that's just the reality of having a center weighted stem. Some people don't even get bothered by it, or they kind of just get more used to it. But once you go to an RX based switch, if you notice right here, and try to move it, it's significantly going to be much less. And that's because there's significantly less keycap wobble that is on this switch. So there again, you can see how much I'm able to kind of move that around. And then here you can see actually it's significantly less. And that's because this has 4 points. And so you have what's called less deviation. So whether you press it here, 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 it's going to feel very, very similar. So it doesn't matter whether your finger kind of hits this. Here, you actually almost, you'll actually have a little bit of a different characteristic because the actual keycap is moving a little bit more. So this is a far more stable and consistent switch. Then you also have that much more consistent lighting. There's also an internal stabilizer that we have that I'll show you that allows the actual switch to be really smooth in terms of how it actuates up and down. So that is going to be a big difference there between the two switch designs. Okay. And again, this is an optical based switch and this is a mechanical based switch. Now they're also going to have a little bit of a different sound. I will go ahead and type on them if you guys want to hear. These are both red switches. So this is your red traditional reds and these are the ROG RX reds. So I'm going to quickly do a little bit of a sound test. You guys can maybe get a sense of kind of how they sound before I go into some of the other elements. So let's go ahead and do that. Hopefully I don't have anything up on that other screen that kind of throws that off, but let me go ahead and do this. So let's get this this is pretty close, so you guys should get a pretty good test here for this. All right, so let's go ahead and do it first now for this guy. So this is going to be for your standard Cherry MX. Okay, and now we're going to go with the ROG RX base switches. So these are the optical switches. They are going to definitely have I feel, a smoother and nicer sound to them. And like I said, they also have just less rattle because you're going to get less wobble on the keycap. And they also have this really cool what's called X stabilizer. So the stabilizer allows to have a really kind of smooth, consistent movement kind of up and down like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and go that. There you go. So I don't know if you guys could hear that difference, but it sounds quite different between the ROG RX based switches and then the NX bases. Excuse me, the ROG, the Cherry MX based switches and then the ROG RX based switches. So again, here a quick one. This is the ROG RX. And now we'll switch right over here to this is going to be the Cherry MX. There you go. So you can definitely see that there's quite a bit of difference on that optical. And now the other really cool thing about this optical keyboard is going to be that the way that we've designed this actual keyboard, the actual switches and the PCB and the frame material are all fully sealed. And so that means that this actually has really, really great ingress protection. This means you can literally dunk this in water. You can, you don't have to worry about, if you're really tough on your keyboard and you don't want to kind of have to worry about damaging the keyboard, this is a really good choice because literally you could spill something on this, dust, debris, dander. It's all very tightly sealed in there. So it's very, very difficult for anything to get on the inside of this keyboard. Okay. So that is going to be another big benefit here of the ROG RX based switches. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look right here at the ROG RX based switches. So give me 1 second. And I think I've got it over here. ROG RX. Okay, there we go. Great. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at its little
first ROG gaming key.
So this is going to again be the ROG RX based switches that we're talking about, and we're going to have a couple of models that we're going to talk about that all have these RX based switches. So again, as a quick recap, one, you get that central lighting design. It's bolder, it's brighter, and it's more evenly distributed. You have that center weighted design, which is also really nice for the legends. So as I noted right there, you don't have to have an offset legend. You can see that really nice stabilizer. That stabilizer allows for really nice, smooth, consistent actuation when you're using the switch. The fact that it's also optical means that it's more durable and it's going to last longer, and it's going to be ultra quick in terms of its actual signal reception, as opposed to kind of a traditional switch, although traditional switches can be very fast as well. Then this unit will, like I said, still carry over a lot of the other things that we talked about. So you still get the per key RGB lighting, you get the function level lighting control, right? You have the reduced keycap wobble because of that 4-point weighted stem design, which I talked about, which is really going to be nice right there. 100 million lifespan in terms of the rated actually lifespan for this switch as well, which is very, very good. Entry level mechanical switches are going to be like 10 to 20 million. Then you get into 30 to 50 million for a lot of the other type of switches, and then maybe 50 to 80 million. And then at 100 million, you can see really kind of class leading, very, very, very good in terms of the overall kind of lifespan that you would have here. So we do also offer this switch in a clicky variant. So if you want the clicky option, then you can go the clicky, the blue route, or if you want to go with the reds, the linears, which is my preference, you can go that route. Now you can see that 4-point weighted stem is really the key part, along within that X stabilizer of what allows for that really nice, smooth, consistent actuation experience. That also what gives it generally a softer feel and a softer kind of sound profile to it. So it's not necessarily maybe at the class of like what you would call a super silent switch, but it is significantly quieter than the standard. And you saw definitely when we compared it to the Cherry MX based red switch, there was quite of a notable difference there. That more balanced illumination also is a nice effect that you'll just kind of realize over time with the keyboard as well. So that is going to be the ROG Strix Scope RX. And this one is a wired model, but we will have wireless models that we're going to talk about here in a moment. The last thing that I also want to show off right here is, again, this model, because of the way that it's been designed, really is going to be a great option that if you kind of want to take it to the next level and you don't want to have to worry about anything. As you can see right here, this model is IPX certified, so you do have the flexibility that you could spill it. You don't have to worry about dust, debris, dander, or anything getting in there. This is really built to a high degree, so great option if you want something that's going to be really durable. And like I said, this one is on sale right now. The ROG Strix Scope RX, I already did link it in the chat, but we'll go ahead and just check the pricing for you right here. So let me go ahead and bring that up right here. That model, you can see right there that normally $130 and now it's $118, or you can get the blue variant, which is normally $130 and now it's $90. So if you don't mind the clicky switches and you like all the other parts about the ROG RX optical switch, then this one might be one for you to check out, okay? All right, so there you go. That's going to be the ROG RX optical switch that we have there. Okay, so next up, let's go ahead and take a look at our next keyboard here. So that was, sorry, we're going to go into the wireless models, which are going to be featuring the ROG RX-based switches. So first one that we're going to talk about is going to be the Claymore II. So let me go ahead and get the Claymore II out here. Let me disconnect some of these keyboards. All right, here we go. This is definitely one of my favorite models that we have here. So this is the Claymore II. And the Claymore II is going to give you those ROG RX based switches. But the cool thing about the Claymore II is that it's wired, it's wireless, and you have the ability to take off the actual numpad. So if you want essentially even more flexibility and better ergonomics, then this is a really cool option for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Claymore II. All right, so let me go ahead and just set this one up here for you guys. All right, so there we can see we've got our Claymore II. Very, very cool keyboard. It has all the benefits that we already talked about here in terms of that this model is going to featuring the ROG RX Optical based switches, and you already kind of saw one of the really cool design elements right on this model, which is going to be that it has what's called the bond. So when we first designed the Claymore years ago, we were really kind of the first out there to design this really cool innovative concept to say, hey, if you want to be able to have the better ergonomics, right, and have a TKL, so a 10 keyless based keyboard, why not go ahead and be able to remove the actual numpad? And so that's what we did in the first generation. That was more than 5 years ago, and now we've got the second generation. So this is the Claymore II, and you can see right there I can just remove the bond. And so then if I don't want the numpad, I don't have to have the numpad, and I have a TKL keyboard, so that's great, and not putting that extra strain right here on my arm. I have a really nice compact keyboard with those nice optical based switches, and this one is going to be wired and wireless. So again, if I don't want to use it wired, bam, I can go ahead and remove the cable, I can flip the switch on, and now it's going to go into wireless mode. And just like the other models, it has that really nice integrated little storage adapter for my 2.4 gigahertz wireless adapter, and it's magnetic, so I can just go ahead and store it back in there. When I do want to take advantage of that, or I don't want to take advantage of it, put it back in there and I'm good to go. And again, you're going to have it be wired, so the choice is entirely up to you. And then right here with the bond unit, I can go ahead and just dock this in place, and I can put it on the left or the right hand side. You can go ahead and put it on either side. The choice is entirely up to you. You also have a dedicated volume knob right here, and you have 4 macro buttons that you can go ahead and customize, do with whatever you want. Although keep in mind that all the top buttons right here on this model, they are already kind of preset for optimal kind of ease of use. So you already have like media keys that are built on here. You have the volume wheel that's also right here, and then you have your macro keys that are on there. Full function level lighting control, so you can press the function button and the arrow keys. You have multiple onboard memory profiles. It has also quick charging support, and it also even has a USB pass-through. So there's a USB port on there, so if you want to again connect your mouse or a wireless adapter for a mouse, or like a headset or something like that, then that is going to be one of the really cool things about the Claymore II. So let's go ahead and just kind of quickly take a look through at some of the images right here that we've got for the Claymore. So give me 1 second here, guys. And we'll go ahead and show you guys a little bit on the Claymore II. And this one is on sale right now, so if you guys do want to pick it up, I'm going to share this with you right now. So give me a second right here. So again, this was the original Claymore that you're going to see right here, right? Moved it forward, and now this is with the Claymore II. So the big thing, of course, is having that flexibility where you can remove the actual bond. It also comes included with the wrist rest in there. You can go on the left or the right hand side. You can go wired or wireless. It has those really nice RX optical switches, right? This one is not designed for full submersion. It's still quite durable in that regard, but it's not designed for full submersion. Really nice feel, that keycap reduction, the center weighted legends, of course the better illuminated lighting that you also have on there. Wired or wireless sync support is available to you. Really large 4,000 milliamp battery, and also quick charging support. A lot of keyboards don't actually necessarily support quick charging, so that is another nice level of flexibility. And that USB pass-through is also a nice level of flexibility to be able to add other items right there. The macro keys and that volume dial, all there on the Claymore II. We're going to go ahead and just show it there quickly under the secondary display just so you guys can see it, but let me go ahead and bring up the pricing right now for that model. So give me 1 second here. So you can see right here for the red switches, this one's a pretty big price savings. It says 16%. It doesn't seem like that much, right? So actually the one that we want to check out right here is going to be $228. Actually, I can tell you might have bumped up a little bit in price, but normally at $228, that's still a savings. So $228, this is the one that's shipped and sold by Amazon right there. So that's $228 versus the normal price, which is $270. Okay, so $270, right? Versus even if you get it shipped and sold from Amazon at $228, you're getting definitely a nice savings right there. And then with the blue switch variant, let's go ahead and check out the blue switch variant. Blue switch variant is even going to be more. You can see you got a 5% coupon there, and you also have then that $216 price, right? So $270 down to $216. So if you don't mind the clickies, then definitely you can even get it cheaper. all the same design features, functions, and elements are going to be on this model, okay? So let me go ahead and drop this one there in the chat. This user says, I have the Claymore II and it's an awesome keyboard. Awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah, I agree. I'm a really big fan of the Claymore II. All right, here we go. So let's go ahead and just kind of take a quick look right here through some of these items. All right, so again, remember these right here are going to be customizable hotkeys, or kind of like macro keys. You have the built-in volume knob, and that can be moved either to the left or to the right-hand side. You got that USB pass-through port, so that's going to be great for like a mouse, a keyboard, a headset, a flash drive, things along those lines, right? And then your native USB-C connector, again, you can swap out the cable, or you can go with the 2.4 gigahertz connection, and that also does support fast charging for the keyboard. 4,000 milliamp battery. This is quite large for a wireless keyboard. Many wireless keyboards have a significantly lower capacity in terms of the actual battery life. Again, you can put this either on the left or the right hand side when it comes to the bond, and it does come included with a magnetic wrist rest. You can use the wrist rest or not use the wrist rest. It's entirely up to you. It comes in both the red and the blue switches, so either the clicky or the linear based option. It's giving you a little bit of perspective there, kind of in the TKL based format. And here you can see the kind of the Claymore, and that, of course, center weighted legend design, which I think looks really, really nice and really consistent, as opposed to kind of that offset legend design, which is so common. Now, even though those switches are exposed, this is not a hot swappable switch design, so these are going to be permanently attached. And this is our desk mat. In case you're wondering, this is the scabbard, and we also have the sheath. So if you're looking for a large desk mat, then we also got you covered there, so no worries. All right. So that is going to be the ROG Claymore II. Again, on great promo right now. You can go ahead and pick it up, save yourself some money. If you're looking for a really nice wired or wireless keyboard, then I would check out the ROG Claymore II. All right. See, we've got one more right here, which is going to be the ROG Strix Scope RX TKL Wireless. So this is going to be kind of an updated model to the Claymore II, but it is not a replacement for the Claymore II. The big thing for this model is going to be that it is going to be specifically just a TKL. Now this one's also on sale, and I think this might be the best option if you kind of want like that hybrid experience where you want the ROG RX optical switches, you want wired or wireless connectivity, but you want TKL, but you don't really kind of need to worry about having that flexibility of having the numpad because you don't ever use a numpad, right? So if that's what you're looking for, then this might be kind of maybe the perfect model for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at this model right here with the ROG Strix Scope RX TKL Wireless. All right. All right, here we guys go. And so here with this, again, this is going to be a tri-mode based mouse, excuse me, a tri-mode based keyboard. So this is going to be Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz, and USB-C. It's going to be TKL based, fully supports the wireless sync support or of course wired sync support. Either one is going to be available to you. It has the ROG RX Optical based switches. Great battery life that's going to be on this. It has an upgraded element of the sound dampening foam, where that was something that we saw, we also introduced again with the kind of the Flare 2 Animate, that more premium experience. So you already get kind of that smoother, softer experience and that more consistent audio experience with the ROG RX red switches, but then you add in the sound dampening foam and that kind of elevates it a little bit further. So I'm a really big fan of this model right here. So let's go ahead and take a look right here. We'll show you guys the pricing, and I'll share the link in the chat right there as well. So this is going to be right here, the ROG Strix Scope RX TKL Wireless. You can see normally $170, and right now you can get it for $145. $55. This one we only have in the reds right now. We don't have any blue variants, so just in the reds. But a nice little savings, 15%. So normally $170, you can get it for $145. And this one also comes included with the wrist rest. So has pretty much everything that we talked about on the Claymore, except it doesn't have the bond, right? And it's going to be just a TKL based keyboard. But I think for a lot of users, this is going to kind of hit that sweet spot. Hey Jay, thanks for that feedback. Yeah, I mean, that would be a little bit more tricky to move kind of the arrow keys from one side to another. I don't think that many people that would need that level of functionality, but that's kind of interesting. Since that's a deluxe, as it comes with the wrist rest. That is correct. Yes, deluxe always will comes with the wrist rest. So that's the easiest way to kind of know, except for the Claymore II. The Claymore II doesn't say that it's deluxe. It just says Claymore II, but it comes with the wrist rest, right? And also the Flare Animate, right? The Flare 2 Animate, it's a high-end based model, so that one also comes with the wrist rest. But if it generally will say deluxe, then it comes with the wrist rest. But there are some models, like I said, the Claymore 2, the Flare 2 Animate, that already come with the wrist rest, even though they do not say deluxe in their name, right? But yes, as this one is going to be a deluxe, it comes with the wrist rest. And I think I did share that one in the chat right there. So let me go ahead and just show you guys some great photos of this one right here. Again, maybe my overall kind of all-around favorite model that we have right here, because you get the ROG RX based switches, which I love, especially those red switches. You get the sound dampening foam, which makes it even quieter, reduces some of that pinging in the body. And then you get the tri-mode connectivity, which is great because I like to be able to use my keyboard with my laptop, with my desktop, even with my phone or my tablet. So I really love that flexibility. I love also being able to use the hardwired connection. So it really kind of gives me everything that I'm looking for within that model, right? You know, the only other one that's tough call to make, like I said, is the Falchion, because the Falchion, especially the ROG NX Falchion, which was what, the $60 off for the ROG NX red linears, that's a really tough one to beat. So that's a really great option as well. But I think this is a fantastic option for a lot of you that might be looking to be able to upgrade to something that is really smooth, gives you a great deal of flexibility when it comes to the connectivity, great feel, nice noise profile, great RGB lighting design. So this is one to definitely check out here, the ROG Strix Scope RX TKL. Like I said, on sale right now. We only have the red switches, so don't ask about the blue switches. No blue switches for this one right now, just the red switches. All right. Okay, guys, so I think that almost covers all of the keyboards that I wanted to go over, guys, today. So I think I did drop hopefully all of them there in the chat in terms of kind of giving you guys a little bit of a recap in terms of what we've got there. A lot of really nice sales and promotions. We will have even more stuff coming out over the coming days, of course. Make sure to check out our website, the EdgeUp website, edgeup.asus.com. And of course, if you guys are part of the ASUS PCDIY group, are following our social media channels, you'll also see that we'll be talking about other promotions. We still have other active promotions that we're actually running right now as well. We have promotions on chassis. We have chassis promotions on power supplies. We have promotions on our AIO coolers. So there's a lot of active promotions that are going on right now. But this stream, we just wanted to go ahead and give you a little bit of recap on all of the cool stuff that we're doing on our keyboard side. Last but not least, I will give you one just kind of quick update that for somebody that was just wondering a little bit about white and maybe an alternate model. While this model will not be on sale, let me go ahead and just bring it up right here really quick. We will be having an updated ROG Falchion model, which will be the ROG Falchion Ace. So let me go ahead and just show you this one. It's going to look pretty similar. There are going to be a couple little bit differences on this model, and this one will be coming out pretty shortly. It should hopefully be next month. This will be the Falchion Ace. This will be only wired, but it will be coming in white and it will be coming in black. So you will be able to get it in both colors. So you can get it in white and you will be able to get it in black. It has the top cover. The main improvements that you're going to have here are going to be a couple of things. One, it's a USB-C cable design just like the original Falchion, but it has a cable that can be attached on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. So that's a little bit nicer for kind of certain kind of setups. Another area of improvement is that, of course, it's going to have improved stabilizers. So it's going to kind of bring over the enhanced stabilizers that we had on the Flare. So that's going to give it even a nicer feel in terms of that, where you also still have the ROG NX switches, which again are going to be that improved actuation and reset point, factory lubed, and then factory binned for more consistency, right? And then the improved stabilizers. And this model will also come included with the sound dampening foam also on this model. So all the way around, a nice number of improvements for the ROG Falchion Ace. And like I said, this one should be coming out next month. Okay. All right. All right. So, now need a new mouse. Yeah, we got you guys. Don't worry. We have the new ROG Aimpoint mice already coming out. We already launched with the new ROG Aimpoint with the new Chakram X, which is an outstanding mouse. 36,000 DPI, brand new. Ultra low CPI deviation in terms of an industry standard right there, but we're going to have the new Gladius 3 Aimpoint and the Curious 3 Aimpoint, which are also both going to be offered in white and in black, and they're wired and wireless. They even have further weight reductions. Really awesome mice if you guys are interested in checking those out. Those will be coming out next month too. All right, guys, I think that pretty much wraps up everything on the stream right here that I want to go ahead and touch on. If you guys have any other questions or comments, feel free to go ahead and hit me up in the ASUS PCDIY group. It's linked in the description down below. We'd love to see you guys there. If you have any other questions or comments, make sure to go ahead and check us out there, or check us out on our social media channels for other promotions and updates that we have going on for the rest of this year. Let me go ahead and see. Got one last question there. Would you mind showing off the headphone stand? I see it hooked up there besides you. Been thinking about picking one up? Yeah, sure. This right here is the we've actually had this around for a little while. This is the ROG Throne. It's a really cool headphone stand. So it's got RGB lighting on it, but it's not just that. There are actually some cool design elements that we have with this headphone stand. So there's RGB lighting, but it does actually have a built-in USB hub. So if you actually take a look on the unit right here, there's actually going to be 2 USB ports. These are high-speed USB 3 ports that you have right there. So that's going to be one thing. It's a RGB stand. It then has a USB 3 hub. In addition to that, the base right here is actually a Qi wireless charging stand. So if you have a wireless phone, then you can go ahead and actually charge your phone right there at the base, so that it supports Qi wireless charging. Another area that's also going to be improved on this model here is that it does actually have a front headphone jack. So you might, well, why does it have a front headphone jack? Now these headphones that I have on this model are going to be our ROG Delta, which means they're USB-C. So they already have a DAC and an amp built into them, but you have an analog headset. So one that uses a 3.5 millimeter jack. This actually also has a built-in ESS Saber DAC and amp built into it. So when you connect it to the actual laptop or to the desktop, it actually has like a sound card essentially built into it that will give you better quality audio for when you connect your 3.5 millimeter headphone or headset into this. So essentially you get a USB audio DAC and amp built in, you get a USB 3 hub, you get a wireless charger, and then you also get RGB lighting. So this is going to be the ROG Throne. We have 2 versions of it. We have the ROG Throne Qi, and then we have the ROG Throne without Qi wireless charging. Okay. Let me see right here. Awesome, did not know that. Is the cable for the headphone stand a USB-C or micro USB? Yeah, so the cable that connects to this is going to be a micro USB. It's actually the longer profile, so it's not the very small micro USB. It's a little bit longer. That's the one that connects to this. And then the other end that actually connects to the PC, that's going to just be a standard Type A connection. So we did that because, of course, that was still, when this was released, there wasn't really that many Type C. And the reality is still most people have Type A ports, right? So you just need a Type A port to be able to connect this, right? And then on the other end right here, that is a micro USB connector, right? James is asking, will there ever be grip tape for the Chakram X? Right now, no plans. We may potentially maybe offer grip tape. We're testing to see how the grip tape response is going to come through on the Gladius 3 Aimpoint and the Curious Aimpoint. So both of those models will come with grip tape included in the box. So you will be able to go ahead and put that on there if that is something you want. But I think we're going to just be monitoring feedback first to be able to see whether or not that's something that people like. If they like, then maybe we'll offer it as an accessory. I don't know if we would offer it as an accessory. We generally don't do that, but we'll definitely be monitoring feedback to see if people like the grip tape option that we include for the Gladius 3 aim point and for the Keras aim point. Okay. All right, guys, that wraps up everything. Take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully you guys get in on some of these awesome promotions that we have for these gaming keyboards. Take care.